Hi, welcome to another video. That is my objective today, St Augustine's Abbey. Now I've lived in Kent since '82, had a spell away for a couple of years, but I've never visited St Augustine's Abbey, so I think it's time to rectify that, and you're going to come along. So let's do this. What I do know about the Abbey is that it was built in AD 598 by St Augustine himself, who was a Roman missionary, and he came here and baptized King Ethelbert, Anglo-Saxon, perhaps a Saxon king, something we'll have a look at as we walk through. It's been suggested I start here, which is kind of like chronological history of it. So let's just take a little walk, then we'll go out and look at the ruins. Wow, UNESCO Heritage Site. Look at these all ruins. I guess these are Romanesque rebuilding. The Norman conquest had a profound impact on the church and spread of monasticism. We've got here an old mitre. Replica lead chalice and pattern, and copper alloy ring rather than real objects made from precious metals. Astonishing. So it's obviously filled with all these relics, things that they found, and all the way along the wall you've got all the masonry work that's obviously come down over the buildings. What can archaeology tell us? Oh look, skeleton displayed in the museum was found in a stone tomb. So have we got a skeleton in the museum here? I might show you it if I can find it. Oh, here it is here. It's the skeleton that was found in the old tomb. Yikes. Good teeth though. Look at the teeth. Nothing falling out. Short though. A short monk. So this is a voyage of discovery because I've never been here before, so part of it is very much a case of just walk around and see what you can see. Perhaps I should have investigated it a little further before I decided to come in, but equally sometimes it's just good to walk around these English heritage sites, read the plaques wherever you are and take it in. I don't know what I was expecting, but that's actually quite magnificent, that big structure. So you've got the end of the Abbey down on the far right by the looks of it. We'll find out when we get there. Then you've got the ruins. So let's follow the path around. Let's see what it tells us. Welcome to St Augustine's Abbey. This is one of the oldest and most important monastic sites in England. It was from here that the conversion of the English people to Christianity began. So there you go. Sent on a mission by the Pope, the Italian monk Augustine began building the first church here in AD 597. A thriving Anglo-Saxon monastery developed and its grounds became an important place of burial. Several Anglo-Saxon kings and early archbishops are buried here. I'll put the text there, pause to read. One way or another we'll follow the path. I think that's the easiest thing. Whistle stop tour, St Augustine's Abbey, perimeter wall. There's the original Abbey, how about that? So, reiterating themselves, he baptized Ethelbert himself, probably in AD 601. Augustine was buried here around 605, and later monks revered him as a saint. Oh, I always thought a saint was someone who had performed a miracle. That's why they become sanctified. But I don't know. Roman Catholic, isn't it? I love this kind of stuff. Just imagine the history here. All of these would have been little buildings, perhaps. Just so old. And actually, we'll probably find out later, but I wonder if things like these would have been supports for a floor. Or perhaps these were pillars that went up into the sky. Oh wow, I like that. That really depicts what it would have looked like, an abbey. So am I going to find somewhere down here that, because it was Roman Catholic, would Henry VIII have had some kind of design in the ruin of this place? Let's have a look here. The red brickwork at the top of the nave wall was added when Henry VIII closed the abbey in 1538 and converted parts of its buildings to make a royal palace. Because of course Henry closed and sacked all the monasteries in the Reformation when they became a Protestant nation. Fascinating that it's still standing. I feel like I want to touch a little bit of his... oh gosh. Oh dear, let's not do any more of that. The abbey's falling apart under my hands. It does look nice, look at that, with the flowers growing through. So we can't go down there, but it I don't know what its purpose was. Let's walk along. Abbot Hugh III, 1224. Abbot Hugh. What's my name? Saint William of Wotton. This marks the end of the nave of Augustine's original church. Had a rectangular nave about 38 feet by 26 feet. So this was the original church, and then they built the abbey. Does that mean we can walk along here? I don't think we can get down. It doesn't look... oh, I don't know. I'm going to do it, you know. Walk amongst the stonework. It's funny when you do filming like this because I don't know the place. It's all a voyage of discovery for me, you know. And I'm wondering, am I going to film bits of it, all of it? Am I going to put some music to it? And I'm only using the GoPro, which in itself has got just an external mic. I came down. I don't fancy climbing up, so I'm going to go back up the little hillock here because I feel like a bit of a pillock. Running up that hill. Oh, we've got some more abbots here. Abbot Thomas Colwell, 1378. He's buried under there. So I guess, you know, if this was an original abbey, and I've seen it time and time again where you have inside a cathedral or something, you have like the burial tombs, and when you're walking along the aisle or the nave you see all the big tombstones in the floor, don't you? Well, that's what I think these are. It's the equivalent. So they bury them within the abbey. Abbot Ralph Bourne, 1332. More burial sites. The Chapel of St. Anne. The Chantry Chapel was added to the church in 1362. The gift of Juliana de Leybourne, Countess of Huntingdon, up near Cambridge, right? Like many wealthy people, she gave money to the abbey so that the prayers would be said in her memory. When I die, I shall give money so that people can continue to pray for me, for my soul and my redemption. Right, what have we got here? This looks Latin to me. Graves of Anglo-Saxon kings. Well, there you go. Eadbald, Hlothere, Withred and Mulus was the king of Wessex who invaded Kent. Chapel of St. John the Baptist. The Norman church had half-rounded chapels to the east of its transepts. They were used for worship and prayer. This one was originally dedicated to St. Martin, who was later rededicated to St. John the Baptist. The area in front of you is the crypt of the Norman church, used by the monks for prayers and burial. So it would have had a cellar. We've seen this in Battle Abbey, haven't we? Have a look at my video. Link at the top. So you've got the remains of the pillars that supported the floor, and that would have had the semicircular arcs, wouldn't it? I think we need to go down. That looks really interesting at the far end there. And we do have some steps, so that makes it a little easier. To imagine walking in the cellar, where it would have had all the columns and that lovely architecture. Abbott, Scotland, 1084. That was an old one. Abbott Wuthred, 1006. That was even before William the Conqueror came over. So under the reign of Alfred the Great, I guess. Chapel of St. Thomas the Apostle. And what is this? The Chapel of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This chapel was used for the singing of Mass for nearly 200 years. You can still see its wall-painted design of heraldic lions in circles. There are also surviving floor tiles relayed here from elsewhere in the church. I'd be interested to see where they are then, because I can't see. No, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, there's the floor tiles from the original church. Astonishing. Mass would be held here. Do you know any Latin? Dominus Sanctus and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a walkway that seems to go, oh, it goes to the top. We'll do that in a second. I want to go and see this bit. Tombs of kings and archbishops. Fascinating. So I like the design, that's giving me an idea. So this is the wing which we're seeing here. The main building is all along the middle, and then the other side has the other wing, which we just walked down, didn't we? So what does it say here? Anglo-Saxon kings and early archbishops were buried here, including St. Augustine himself. The brick foundations in front of you are the only visible remains of St. Augustine's first church, built soon after AD 597. You are facing the porticus of St. Gregory, a room on the north side of the church which held the tomb of St. Augustine. So actually you can see down there Lawrence, 2nd Archbishop of Canterbury, 619. This was the original abbey, and the ruins of what is or was the abbey. What is that? That's probably a church, right? It's not part of the abbey at all. So I think that the footpath here, the centre of learning, you know, when the monks come and they meditate and they walk around, I think we'll do that first rather than go up there first. So let's just have a look here. Centre of learning. This square space was the abbey's cloister. It housed one of the great centres of book production in medieval England. Fascinating. A book on plants and their properties made by a monk here around 1100. The monks also wrote about their other subjects such as history, poetry and religion. So within the boundaries, all of this would have been covered, and as you walked around you had the grass central area. So every side of this square was covered up, potentially protecting them from bad weather and stuff if you're walking through saying your devotions. What do you think? I can't squeeze through there. That's not going to work. So what have we got here? Lavatorium. Octagonal building, held a basin and the fountain where the monks washed their hands before going into the refectory opposite to eat their meals. It was built under Abbot Roger of Chichester, who paid for it himself. So this was the the lavatorium. Clean themselves and then go in here to eat their food. So this was the eating area, which I guess we'll know in a minute because we'll walk up there and read the sign. So again, not quite familiar. There's some books and things up in there. Interesting. I don't know if that's current, still in use, or what. Communal life. The rectangular area was the abbot's refectory or dining hall where the monks ate together twice a day. Typical meal was bread and a vegetable stew or broth. Meat was forbidden except on special occasions. Most of the food came from the estates that the abbey owned across Kent. At its height, St. Augustine's owned almost 12,000 acres, covering much of northeast Kent and most of the Isle of Thanet. So I guess this map shows all the land they owned. I'm almost hearing some people go, tax the churches. So yeah, there's the refectory. I'd be interested to know at what stage this became the ruin I see now before me, if that makes sense. Was there a time when it was it the 1200s? Was it the 1300s? At what stage does this become a relic and a ruin? And what generation is appreciating it as I'm appreciating it? Does that make sense? I suppose I've got to find something that says it was used until maybe it was the Norman Conquest. 597, comes over St. Augustine, baptizes King Ethelbert, who he himself is a Saxon king. 1066 the Normans come over, they win the Battle of Hastings and subsequently run the country, and then the dynasty of the Angevins, the Plantagenets, the Tudors, the Stuarts, into the Hanoverians and the like, all the way up to the Windsors. This potentially, well, I don't know, maybe Henry VIII sacked it and it was a lovely fine building until then. We'll go up here, conclude the little visit. We've been covered most of it, haven't we? Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe it was Henry VIII then that did it. What I should have done is got one of those audio book things, eh? This is the back end. Lady Chapel and Crypt. Lady Chapels were used for special performances of Mass in honour of Virgin Mary. This one was first built in the 14th century to replace the Lady Chapel in the crypt. It was rebuilt around 1500 and the foundations of both phases were visible. Rebuilt around 1500, so the monastery was still in use up to Henry VIII's time. The wall separated the monks' cemetery on this side from a larger public cemetery on the other side, which stretched as far as the modern street called Longport, which is where I parked my car. The cemetery gate, built in 1319, can still be seen outside the Abbey site. So that means that must be the burial site of monks, because this wall separates both sides. St Pancras Church. These are the only standing remains from the Anglo-Saxon monastery. The church was originally built in the 7th century using Roman materials, the red brick, and stood separated from the other Anglo-Saxon structures, so it survived the Norman rebuilding. Normans conquered, Normans rebuilt. Out go the Anglo-Saxons, in come the Normans. Then Reformation happens and the Protestant faith kicks in, 1500s, Henry VIII. Monasteries are abolished and sacked for their treasures by Henry VIII and his cohorts. So I think the ruins span multiple generations and multiple eras. Look at the pattern in that, isn't that amazing? Potential fireplace or a door in its day. It's actually quite a vast site, isn't it? Walking on the wall because I don't know, what would you say? I like to bend and break the rules. I'm suddenly not feeling it and I'm thinking, should I put this out as a video? But you know what, you might enjoy coming here. St Augustine's Abbey, not particularly a lot to see. A lot of ruins, a couple of plaques. I've never done it before and I can think why I haven't is because, you know, a quick couple of minutes. Perhaps if you're doing a study of, you know, the faith, the monasteries pre-Reformation, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? The end of the Abbey. In 1538, Henry VIII closed the Abbey, bringing to an end over 9 centuries of monastic life on the site. A royal palace was built and a fine garden was laid out. It makes me wonder if that was part of the royal palace, you know, this part here, because of the gardens. In 1530s, Henry VIII seized control of the Church of England from the Pope. He used his takeover as an opportunity to close all the monasteries and cede their vast estates. At least I got that bit right. St Augustine's was not spared. On the 3rd of July 1538, the last abbot, John Essex, surrendered the abbey and its property to the Crown. Buildings were torn down, stone was sold off, and the sacred shrines were broken up for their precious metal. It's a strange one, isn't it? There he is. What was Henry's thought? Was it more that he wanted to break away from the Catholic Church? He obviously wanted to marry, you know, and wasn't permitted to divorce. So he decided to set up his own religion and break away from the Church, the Roman Church, the Pope. But why sack all the monasteries? Why not hand them over to the Protestant religious people of the day? That would make sense to me. But instead he sacked them. He razed them to the ground, which is rather odd, because to me raise means but I think it's got a Z in there, hasn't it, as opposed to R-A-I-S-E-D. Raised, R-A-Z-E-D. Is that right? Just working off the top of my head here. Yeah, he razed and sacked all the monasteries, which doesn't leave a lot for us, you know. Neglect and natural disasters led to the decline of the royal palace. This was the question I wanted to know. In the 8th of September 1692, an earthquake shook the city of Canterbury. Part of Ethelbert Tower, which had originally stood in the northwest corner of the abbey, collapsed and destroyed much of the former palace. Well, who knew? During the 18th century, the buildings were put to many different uses, including a pub and a brewery. By the mid-19th century, The significance of the site to the history of Christianity in England had almost been forgotten. What a fascinating place. Steeped in history, I come across as like being a bit blasé and I don't care, but actually I do. It's really nice. Let's have a quick look in the gift shop, see what kind of wares they've got for sale, and conclude the video. Because it's one thing I like doing, is just having a quick look at the gift shop. I like these old robes, look, and these tunics. Ethelbert and Bertha costume. I wonder if that's a statue. Well, it is, obviously. You know what I mean. Where is it? I do like these. I think they're quite pricey though. £25 and stuff. Have your own stained glass window. Nice mugs. There you go, Tudor. You should buy that so that you can clue up and learn. How to live like a monk. Medieval wisdom for modern life. Don't drink, don't swear. There's all the kings of England. William, Henry, Stephen, Henry, Richard, John. Oi. Lots of regal stuff. Book of the month. English Heritage Monopoly. They've got a fine selection of alcohol. I think in the times of monks and the like, they didn't trust the water, did they? So they drank ale and mead and that kind of stuff, wines. Wonder if they actually knew the importance of water in those days. Blackfriars carrot cake, fudge brownies. Thank you very much. Bye. So there you go, St Augustine's Abbey. Not far actually from the actual cathedral site. I'm parked on Long Court, which I knew, and we've got the sites of the buildings. The history of Canterbury. Okay, we'll conclude the video. I'll see you in the next one, whenever I decide to make one, because Tudor's Travels doesn't really do a lot, does it? Every now and again I'll throw something out there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.